how my dad and stepmom both went into the respective restrooms at the same time. And when my stepmom Mimi came out, he wasn't there. And then my uncle Brian walked up and she asked him, "Hey, will you go check the men's restroom to see if he's in there?" And he wasn't. So that was the point that we knew he was lost. I think everyone just immediately became so terrified for his safety.
A few months ago, I had a older family member that had a medical emergency while they were on vacation in another country. And within a matter of hours, I was on a plane headed out there trying to help them. Today's case takes those same fears and multiplies them to the nth degree. We have a family member that goes missing while they're on vacation, and you heard it literally. They thought he was in the bathroom. His wife comes out, and he's gone. It's time to turn on the searchlight for Edmund Bradley Solomon. Welcome back to Brain Scratch Searchlight. I'm John Lordan. Thank you so much for spending some time with me here today. And if you've been noticing that we're running fewer shows on this channel, that's because we've decided to dedicate this channel to Brain Scratch and Searchlight only. If you're looking for our Monday and Wednesday shows, you can find them over at LordanArts Studio 2. I'll have a link in the description box down below, and I'll bring up a little card for you to click on right now if you'd like to subscribe there so you can see our other content. As we take a look at the basic information here, you might notice something's different about this poster. It is written in Spanish. Like I mentioned, Brad did go missing on vacation, but this story actually starts in a bit of a different place. The Icon of the Seas. It's a cruise ship built for Royal Caribbean International, and it's the lead ship of the Icon class. She entered service just this year, January 27th, 2024, out of the Port of Miami in the U.S. at over 248,000 gross tons. Icon of the Seas is the largest cruise ship in the world, and we have some pictures of it here, and also some commentary about it being a monstrosity. Seems like everyone's not a fan of this. Some critics are comparing it to having the same buzz as the Titanic did on its maiden voyage, but here you get a couple shots and just get the sense of the immense scale of this thing. It is literally a floating city, and this is what Brad and his wife Mimi, as well as some other family members, were on when they went on a 7-day cruise. What happened? Let's start over at cruisehive.com. Elderly guest missing from world's largest cruise ship. Edmund Bradley Solomon and his family were enjoying a 7-night Western Caribbean cruise aboard Icon of the Seas, but when the ship visited Cozumel, the busiest cruise port in the Caribbean, Solomon became separated from his family members, and he did not return before the ship's departure. His wife, Mimi, notified the Cozumel police immediately after noticing her husband's absence and remained in Cozumel in a local hotel as the cruise ship departed, hoping to have word of her husband. As of when this article came out, the municipal police of Cozumel, as well as other local agencies, are involved in the intensive search efforts, including video surveillance resources in an attempt to locate Solomon. Alerts have also been sent out through social media to encourage community assistance. We're going to see that alert actually provided helpful in this case. Icon of the Seas departed Miami on Saturday, March 30th for the 7-night sailing and had already visited Costa Maya and Roatan before stopping at Cozumel on Wednesday. There has been no delay to the ship's itinerary, and the ship is scheduled to arrive back in Miami on Saturday, April 6th. So Wednesday, April 3rd is the day that he went missing. Over at MexicoNewsDaily.com, the director of the municipal police of Cozumel reported that Edmund suffers from dementia. Municipal authorities said that they received information from a taxi driver who called the 911 emergency number to report that he had picked up a foreign tourist matching Edmund Solomon's description on the road to La Pasión Island. Solomon allegedly boarded the taxi on 65th Avenue at approximately 2:30 p.m. on April 3rd and asked the driver to drop him off at a road with access to the beach. The taxi driver stated that Solomon paid for the ride with a wristwatch because he claimed to have no money. So taking a look at this map, it's interesting because my initial assumption is that Perhaps he was having an episode. Maybe he went walking off, eventually finds a taxi, and he's asking to get to the beach. He might be trying to get back to where his family is, or perhaps that was part of their excursion here. Maybe they were talking about, we're going to go to a beach, and that was in his mind. Interestingly, the taxi driver takes him approximately 9 miles north and east to this road that supposedly lives out to, here it is right here, Isla de la Pasión. And then, to have him pay by watch, it always hits me in these stories when we have things that seem like missed opportunities. And just this taxi driver who obviously was trying to be helpful. I mean, he's in touch about this very, very soon after the word gets out. But it's one of those things where it's like, all right, you've got this guy. He's asking you to drive him to a beach. You take him out to this beach. He doesn't have money of his own. He pays you with his watch. It seems like that's already not a normal thing. I don't know if it's normal for people to get rides from taxis and not have money to pay them like that. I don't think it is. It's unfortunate that there might have not been some more communication around that, but we don't know. Honestly, I don't know if Brad speaks Spanish. I don't know if the taxi cab driver speaks English. There might have been a communication gap that is part of this as well in terms of taking him out in that direction. Thankfully, the family notices very quickly what's happened. His wife reaches out for help, and help does seem to come around. Now, based on some of what I'm reading, there might have been some conflicts in terms of who's in charge of this search that might have hindered things a little bit at the beginning, but family says that kind of got ironed out, and then things really started rolling with the search efforts. We can see here that as of April 5th, they're already reporting that the search is intensifying. So this is only a few days after, and they're basically ratcheting it up even more. The search for a missing American cruise ship passenger has officially intensified. According to his sister, I believe it might be his sister-in-law, but he suffers from advanced dementia and wears a GPS device in the form of a necklace around his neck. That is a great idea, something that I would think would be helpful in this case. We've got some challenges and some other aspects to talk about around that. And ultimately, he hasn't been found. So we know that device, for some reason, is not working as intended. State Civil Protection activated a search operation to locate the missing man, but have not yet found him. That search was expanded to include all the beaches and businesses in the northern hotel zone, including hotels, condominiums, beach clubs, and restaurants. Rescue personnel have also combed 1.3 kilometers of deep jungle heading toward the center of the island. That's the other thing. This island is not giant. It's approximately 30 miles at its width, at its farthest width, and then about 10 miles in the other direction. So we are talking 300 square miles, but look at it. I mean, there's kind of a central city area here, and everything else is just green. And apparently this is just dense vegetation. Even knowing where he was last seen, and we don't have an exact location in terms of where he was dropped. I've read some reviews about the road that it takes to get to Isla de la Pasión, and apparently it's a very bumpy road to the point of like you probably shouldn't do it with regular cars. Like maybe you want to rent a Jeep to do it. So I don't know at what point he was dropped off, if it was before that aspect of the road, but just looking at this map, I mean, there's so many different places to go off in different directions, and you would be literally in the middle of nowhere. So obviously a lot of concern around this. A civil protection jet ski was also out there searching. A state helicopter was used so that they could check from the air. And then, of course, the video surveillance. He got picked up kind of in the city area. A description I'm seeing says 65th Street. Which I don't know if I have marked on this map, but it's somewhere around this city area here. We can see here's Avenue 65 right here. So being in that type of area, there are some cameras that actually pick up his movements leading up to him getting into the taxi cab. And we're going to see some photos from that. But outside of that, not a whole lot of information that really tracks his movement. His family has posted on social media pointing out that he has no phone and no money. So, what about this GPS? Local police said that Solomon had a necklace with a GPS, which only works within 33 feet of his wife's phone. My feeling is, and I'm seeing other references, that it might be an AirTag. What I'm curious about is this is making a distinction that it only works within 33 feet of his wife's phone. So I've looked into this a bunch today to try to understand this more, because I had a friend of mine actually bring this up with AirTags as well, about like, hey, why don't I, put an AirTag on my pets so that they'll never get lost. So there's kind of two tags that are in use primarily right now. The Tile, which is kind of the Android version, Samsung version, and then the AirTag. Effectively, what they do is they are just Bluetooth emitters. And in case you don't know, Bluetooth is just for localized wireless contact. It's something that your AirPods might use, or if you have wireless headphones that connect to your cell phone, those are usually Bluetooth. They have a pretty limited range. Old Bluetooth is somewhere around 33 feet. Newer versions of Bluetooth can get a lot farther, but we're still talking in the range of maybe hundreds of feet at most. So thinking about a device that you're going to get for a family member to potentially track them if they have issues with roaming or wandering, that type of range doesn't seem like it's the best thing. The trick is that those devices will talk to other devices. So if it was an AirTag, and I'm not 100% sure that it was, I'm seeing it described as that though. If he got close to another iPhone at all, that iPhone would basically report back, okay, that tag is in this general area. So that's kind of how they work. Now, there's a lot of iPhones out there. The current estimates for 2023 say that there might be 1.5 billion iPhones in use in the world. The trick with the Samsung version, the Tile version, is it doesn't only work if it hits a Samsung phone. It has to be a phone that's actually running the Tile software. So that limits it severely. So that statement about that his GPS only works with his wife's phone might lead me to believe that it's that type of product, or maybe some other off-name product where it's only her phone that has some kind of app for it. If it is the AirTag, then anytime he's around an iPhone, there should be another ping that comes in from it. However, look at that area. We just looked at the map. How many iPhones are going to be in that particular area once he's outside of the downtown city area? And that's where all of this gets tricky. There are alternatives to this. We'll talk about those at the end of the episode. I'm trying to just after going through my own personal scare, which by the way went fine. They went through surgery in the other country. We were able to bring them home safely. No big issues there. But I'm just trying to add as much helpful information for anyone else that might be facing these types of concerns, like we kind of are with certain family members now, so that you guys know about them when you decide to look into maybe what products or services to purchase to help with situations like this. But we'll get to that. Let's stay focused on the case right now. Jumping over to Reddit, we have a post from a person saying that this is his daughter. I do believe that this is Savannah, the same woman that we showed at the start of today's episode. So her post here from 21 days ago. Hi, this is my dad. He has frontotemporal dementia and can no longer understand complex processes or communicate clearly in conversation. He's very friendly and loves to meet new people, but due to his disease is more quiet, reserved these days. He's a figure-it-outer, and that is how he approaches life. However, he can no longer figure things out, which results in erratic and nonsensical behaviors and conversations. My family is terrified for his safety. Please help us find him. He has no phone or wallet on him. He traded his watch for a taxi ride yesterday, and that's the last we know of him. Edmund Bradley Solomon III goes by Brad. His date of birth, March 31st, 1958. March 31st also was one of the first days that he was on this cruise. So he literally had just had his birthday on this cruise. Let's learn a little bit more about what he's facing here. Frontotemporal disorders, oftentimes called frontotemporal dementia, are the result of damage to neurons in the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain. Many possible symptoms can result, including unusual behaviors, emotional problems, trouble communicating, difficulty with work, or difficulty with walking. FTD is rare and tends to occur at a younger age than other forms of dementia. Roughly 60% of people with FTD are 45 to 64 years old. So that is what we're looking at here. And once again, just has me wondering about that interaction with the taxi cab driver and how, if Brad already has issues communicating, how that communication might have kind of gotten off the rails and had him taken out to this area where he wasn't really intending to go. Let's continue with more information from Savannah. Of course, she is really being the voice of this case in media, and we'll continue here. She said, he sometimes says odd things and behaves erratically or oddly because he's just doing what he knows how to do. He can't process the same way you or I can. Solomon grew up in West Ashley and has spent his professional career working as a critical care nurse at Ralph H. Johnson VA Medical Center in downtown Charleston. Someone that gave his heart to other people. He's also an avid surfer and fisherman, although his condition has limited his ability. Miller said he's always been a fixer and someone who's just drawn to helping other people. Miller is now pleading for the community to return the favor. She said, I think the best thing that anyone can do is just spread the word. Start yelling and screaming, elevate it as much as possible so there is awareness and so everyone on the island is looking for him. Solomon's wife has remained in Mexico while the search continues, and that's as of up to this article, which is that first week. Help needed. Brad Solomon was last seen at the SSA Pier in Cozumel wearing a white tank top, gray shorts, and dark glasses. I've been having trouble just getting kind of the basics together. Even his height, I can't tell. I believe that this is maybe in meters, 1.75 meters. So that makes me think that he's likely under 6 feet tall. But I just wanted to get some of the basics out there. So last seen with a white tank top, gray shorts, and dark glasses. The SSA Pier is where the cruise ships kind of come in. And that is kind of the starting point that I have marked here currently. We can see where the cruise ships dock here. But the later information tells us he did wander into the city at some point. Now here it notes that by Friday, the FBI had been called in to assist in the search efforts. I don't know exactly how. I saw several publications that reached out asking for comment, and basically the FBI is just saying, yes, we've been made aware of the case. I don't know if they actually sent resources out there. I don't know if there was any members of the State Department that tried to assist the family here. There's some quotes that I've seen from his daughter that seem frustrated, maybe a lack of support from U.S. resources on this. So I just want to make that clear. At least that was part of it at one point. I don't know if that's still the case. I mean, this case is only just over 3 weeks old at this point, so it could be. And that's part of why I wanted to help raise exposure to it as well. But so it's interesting. We have this note here. The FBI is called in to assist, but I don't know exactly how they did that, and no publications that I've found really have the answer to that. Now, if this wasn't tricky enough, on the day that he went missing, 5 cruise ships actually came in, and that brought over 20,000 passengers to the island. Good thing about that, potentially more witnesses, potentially more iPhones if it was an AirTag being used. But unfortunately, it seems like none of those opportunities have paid off here since he's still missing. A co-worker of Mrs. Solomon, of his wife's, said of the couple, Mimi and Brad are both nurses that have dedicated their lives and careers to helping others. Mimi works at the local VA hospital and is one of the most compassionate nurses I've ever worked with. She is also a breast cancer survivor. Between cancer and dementia, they've been through so much in the last few years, and yet Mimi still shows up every day to take care of others. Sounds like people that we all need to be taking care of when they're that giving to their communities and those people close to them. Miller also noted that her father may be walking around the city briskly and may be visiting the same areas repeatedly because of his anxiety and medical condition. We will run into some footage of him walking at some point, absolutely confirms what she's saying here. He looks like a man on a mission, like someone that knows where they're going, almost head down just a little bit as he's kind of headed off in a particular direction, walking briskly, like she's 100% right on this. Due to the lack of security cameras in Cozumel, the family primarily follows leads from various eyewitnesses. Based on Miller's social media updates, a civilian spotted him on April 3rd around 6 p.m. near a large grocery store, which might be accurate. We have the other pieces that kind of put him in the city area. His daughter advises anyone who sees him not to approach him directly, to follow him at a distance, and to contact the authorities immediately. There's just a very good chance that you're going to scare someone that's in this type of situation, and then he goes running off. As their search continues, his daughter expressed hope and frustration, saying, "We're exhausted and disheartened that we have not found him yet, but we are not losing hope." And these pictures, this one in particular, taken the week of his disappearance. These are very, very current pictures. So this is what he looks like the day that he takes off and goes missing. Savannah also posted no major updates, many false leads today. It's very distressing for us to have hope and then be let down. Contact 911 immediately if you have any information, and please continue sharing our story for awareness. Of course, if you're not in Cozumel, 911 won't be helpful. We've got a number on the screen here where you can call in any tips that you might have on this case if you have some other information. Maybe you were on the boat, saw something or noticed something. You're back home now. You're just becoming aware of this. That's why we've got that number down there for you guys as well. Edmund Bradley Solomon III's family, including his daughter and wife, have been using social media and physically scouring the island with several local law enforcement agencies, but promising leads have become dead ends and theories are running dry. Essentially, the family jumps right into it. His daughter flies out there. I think her boyfriend goes with her. Several family members were out there because of the trip already. Other family members go out there. A lot of people rally around this family, and the initial searches are somewhere around 100 people, and being coordinated with law enforcement. Of course, we know as the weeks go on, those efforts change very quickly. "I'm terrified that if I don't post something, our story will become irrelevant and that the U.S. will forget about us," said his daughter, Savannah. "I'm trying to think of something to say to keep everyone updated, but I'm feeling empty and discouraged and exhausted." Certainly easy to understand. "I thought I was already losing my dad to FTD, but being unable to physically locate him is 100 times more traumatic." His daughter and other family members quickly dropped everything and flew to the popular tourist spot to join Mimi in the search. There's a picture of the three of the family members together. After a week, Solomon is still missing. "It angers me that everyone else's lives are continuing, but we're stuck in this horrifying level of hell," Miller said. "If you're in America, please continue to kick and scream about us to catch media and U.S. government attention so that we can be allocated additional search and rescue resources. Empathy, selflessness, and the endless capacity to love are my dad's most distinctive traits, and they're the ones that still linger despite his personality-stealing disease. If you know him, you know he would do this for you." She continues that, "I have asked those surrounding me in Cozumel not to keep me informed of specific search efforts, lead, or other information because it's making me too anxious and upset. I don't have the bandwidth or the energy anymore," she wrote on Facebook. There was a large-scale search effort earlier the week of this article, which was April 10th. So entering the second week, they still had kind of the large-scale search efforts going on. Included flyovers, ground searches with a rescue dog, and those were happening in the most difficult areas to access, which included jungles and areas around those jungles. So here on CountOn2.com, we hear from Ashley Heyer, and that is Solomon's sister-in-law. "We spread out and started looking everywhere and trying to find Wi-Fi because he has an AirTag on to be able to track where he was," Heyer explained. Now, what she also means is you also need internet access from your device. So if you don't have an international plan of some kind just to give you standard internet access to your phone, you've got to jump on Wi-Fi. So it's not enough that, yeah, he has an AirTag and that's kind of, if he gets close to a phone, maybe a ping hits and there's a little pinpoint that we could look at and say, at this time, he was in this general area. But the family has to be able to access that information. How do you do that? They're looking for Wi-Fi while they're doing these search efforts. And I imagine for some of these locations they're at, you're probably not going to find Wi-Fi very easily, if at all, in some of those cases. So just really tough aspects we have going on here. Solomon, 66 years old, has the same disease as actor Bruce Willis. The family received a couple of pings from the AirTag, but it has gone silent since then. I would bet those pings are likely when he was going through the city area. Maybe if the taxi cab driver happened to have an iPhone, maybe some pings off of that as well. But after that, I don't know. It's hard to tell. And judging by that area, I do know that there are resorts out on that kind of island area that he was headed towards. And, it's the type of place where you might take your family and go do some water sports and things like that. So the potential that you would have another iPhone in that vicinity isn't completely ruled out. The question is, did he even get close enough to those areas? We just don't know. We don't know how far down this dirt road he was dropped off. And did he continue on that road? Would he have known where he's going? Even if he got directions from the taxi cab driver, could have told him, keep going that direction. Is he in a mindset where he's going to be able to hold that information? So many factors going on that unfortunately are working against this case. Over the last few days, Brad has a cousin that has organized a big volunteer group. It's an amazing group of people, locals, expats, and even people that are vacationing who have seen the story and they want to come help. So there's over 100 volunteers as of last night, she said. That is amazing. People that are on vacation in that area, hearing about the story and saying, we're going to go help look for this man. That really brightens my heart in what is turning out to be, unfortunately, a very scary and dark story. And to the point, very quickly, we start hearing from family members here that they're losing hope once we get past the 2-week mark. Hope has run out. The search for Solomon pivoted from search and rescue to recovery, according to a statement his cousin posted to Facebook midday on April 14th. I understand there are still many who want us to keep hoping, his cousin Martha Warren wrote. We have so been hoping and wanting to find Brad alive, but now we must face the nearly insurmountable evidence to the contrary. Hope in the face of hopelessness is not the same as hope in the face of possibilities. It's unfortunate that the articles kind of ran with this title of it's now a recovery effort, because family members are going to come to this conclusion for themselves differently at different paces and with different information. It's hard because, unfortunately, I don't know enough about what Martha is saying here. But when she says that there's nearly insurmountable evidence to the contrary, what is that evidence? The only pieces that we've heard that have kind of been left behind by Brad are his watch that he gave to a taxi cab driver. We don't have remains that have been found that might be him. We don't have his personal effects being found in some area, but he's still missing. It's such a hard thing. You can't tell any family member they're wrong for being hopeful or not being hopeful. But it is a spectrum, and it is going to vary from family member to family member. So, this is a case that kind of caught a lot of international attention in a bit of a bizarre way, where, Facebook posts like this are becoming headlines themselves. But I just want to remind everyone that this doesn't mean that the whole family has lost hope here. Look, we're 3 weeks into this. This is a scary situation. But there's been other situations where we've seen amazing outcomes that you could just never expect. Is this going to be one of those cases? We just don't know at this point. Is there some caring family that is taking care of this man in some place? Possibly. His daughter says that he's a guy that figures things out. Like he's a Mr. Fix-It type. Is he figuring out some way to be surviving while he's waiting for Hope to find him? I don't know. I wish I had those answers. I don't. But it's just a tough thing when you're hearing that people are kind of writing off all those possibilities. I understand it. This is a scary case, and maybe just a little light to keep the hope lit here from his daughter. This is information coming from her. The group that teamed up in Cozumel to search for Solomon will not disband, according to Miller. They're going to form a permanent emergency team called Code Brad in his honor. It'll be utilized if this ever happens to anyone else, Miller said. We're so grateful. Although it's tragic, we're appreciative that at least one good thing could come out of it. And I'm really hearing her there, and I'm trying to keep that in mind as we're talking about this case here too. Yes, I do want to raise awareness. Yes, I think that maybe more help could rally around this family. And if you're someone that can do that, please, we've got all the links that you need in the description box down below to find them if you need to reach out to them, if you just want to be supportive of them, or if you want to help in a more significant way. We're gonna talk about some of those by the end of the episode. But I wanted to not only maybe shine just a little light of hope in this case, let the family know that there are other people out here that care about Brad, that care about them, that want to see them come through this. But also, I wanted to share this information, I think partly because of the experience that I went through and the considerations that I'm thinking about now, having older members of my family that are still traveling. And I want to share information that might be helpful to you, for maybe a family member that you have with considerations of this nature, or maybe even for something for yourself. So we will be getting to that as we continue here. But if this case needs some other little beacon of light, it's an interesting series of articles that comes out after that run of articles about this is a recovery effort. Searches continue. Crews continue to scour city streets, clubs, resorts, beaches, and jungles for the man last seen 16 days ago. So, yeah, his daughter thought, that group is staying together so that they could help other families that might be facing this. That group is also still helping them. They're still there searching. Upon having information that he was transferred to the city on a van, emphasis was placed on parks, properties under construction, abandoned houses, vacant lots, and beaches on the east side of the island, Cozumel authorities reported in April. I don't know what this information is, that he was transferred to the city on a van. I don't know if they're talking about off the boat, like was that part of their excursion? They got onto a van, it took them into the city. Is that where they went and used the bathroom and then Mimi, couldn't find him? Or was there some other ride that I'm not following here? That's the first mention I've seen like that. I have a feeling it was more like that van was an excursion to the city, but it's hard to tell because the other articles are saying he was last seen basically where the ships come in. So I'm not 100% sure on that. Those searches included 3 government agencies, local residents, and some members of Solomon's family who remain in Mexico. Other family members have returned to the United States. I do believe Mimi came back by this point. His daughter also came back by this point. On April 18th, 17 people divided into 4 search brigades and fanned out across the small Caribbean island. Civil protection vehicles blared a recorded message from Mimi hires Solomon, his wife, while traversing areas on the outskirts of San Miguel, the main city and commercial center of Cozumel. It's a great mechanism, especially if you have someone that might be dealing with something like this. We've heard this mechanism used in several cases previously, and I love that they're employing it here. It's a great way that even though Mimi is back here in the U.S., effectively, the benefit of having her voice out there is still there, still working to help find Brad. Security cameras captured images of Solomon walking down various streets in and around San Miguel. A lanyard hung around his neck, and he wore what appeared to be a watch. So that leads me to believe that these images, here's one of them, should be from before the taxi ride. So I'm curious why they're back to searching here now, although maybe he would have gravitated back towards the city in some way. But here we actually have footage. Let's go ahead and run this. And here you can tell there's that walk that I was talking about. See that head down, you know, he's really looking at his feet until he gets in the street, and then almost his instinct is probably to be safe. He's keeping his head up while he goes through the street, but just very determined. Looks like he knows exactly where he's headed to, where he's going. And there's people around him. I mean, it's just, we've got people walking back here. We have a motorcycle in front of him. There should be witnesses around this, but I think he gets in that taxi, and from there, it's the one witness. Authorities said crews and search dogs also examined a popular cave with a deep pool around Mayan ruins and a ghost town in hopes of finding Solomon. Authorities made a call to community members who want to help with the search to join their operation. Several posts on a Cozumel community Facebook page this week indicated that a number of people have continued individual search efforts, including some that included reports of false sightings of Solomon around the island. Unfortunately, he's dressed like a guy on vacation, and I think the false sightings are going to be a natural side effect of this area. You've got people constantly coming in that are going to be wearing ball caps, shorts, sunglasses. It's still worth looking into each one of those, and I'm thankful that there's people there keeping that in mind and doing exactly that. This article from April 22nd, Mexican authorities consider Charleston man missing, not dead. So they're being very clear here. No evidence of foul play exists. The most likely scenario and our current hypothesis is that he is lost in the jungle, said Rafael Tenorio Paisano, the Citizen Protection Director in Cozumel. In 1993, a Missouri man went missing in the Cozumel jungle before walking out alive after 19 days, the same number of days since Solomon officially was last seen. The state's attorney general currently has an open file and is investigating Brad's disappearance. We continue searching for him to this day, Paisano said. So the searches seemingly continue, although I understand it is primarily the smaller volunteer group that is doing it now. And we have the family trying to honor Brad's memory. Family and friends honor Brad Solomon. Here is a picture of him in high school, apparently serenading a teacher, I believe is what they say in the description here. It's a singing Valentine. But yeah, he's serenading Mrs. Bell with a singing Valentine. Savannah, his daughter, said that memories of her father have buoyed her amid the tragedy. Tidbits from her dad's life have flooded Facebook since he went missing. She's grateful, too, for the locals who have cocooned the family in support during their brief stay on the island. On April 18th, Cozumel resident Katie Gonzalez told the Post and Courier crews were still scouring the island for Solomon, even in his family's absence. Cozumel, about 30 miles long and 10 miles wide, has dense jungle carpeting through much of its interior. Back in the States, friends and family are reminiscing about Brad Solomon as the search enters its fourth week. On social media, posts have abounded. One relative recalled watching in awe as Solomon surfed off Folly Beach, starstruck by her older cousin. Friends have shared grainy photos with timestamps stretching back decades. A pastor at St. Andrew's Church in Mount Pleasant recently led the congregation in prayer for the family. That family, Solomon plus Mimi and Miller, is the man's world, friends said. He was a single dad for much of Miller's childhood. When he met Mimi, his daughter was thrilled. A colleague called Mimi and Solomon soulmates. Charleston native Edmund Bradley Solomon III just celebrated his 66th birthday at the beginning of the 7-day cruise to Mexico. Quote, "My sister knew it would probably be the last vacation that she was able to take with Brad based on his deterioration over the last couple of months," said Ashley Heyer, Solomon's sister-in-law. Medical University of South Carolina neuroscience professor Dr. Heather Boger says wandering is very common for those with dementia. She advises on how to best approach the situation if one recognizes a missing person who may have some sort of mental diagnosis. She says, follow them, contact law enforcement, try to keep them in your eyesight, and keep law enforcement on the phone until you have the connection made between those three parties. That is the best phrasing that I've ever seen for that. And just that method makes so much sense. And not only for cases where you might have, well, actually, yeah, some sort of mental diagnosis, cases where maybe it's a teenager, maybe it's a possible runaway situation. This is just such a good method of operation, I think, for if you come across someone that you do think is a missing person, keep them in eyesight, get on that phone, try to get law enforcement to interact with them, and keep that connection going until you see it happen. Boger also says if someone that you love has dementia, to get a tracker. And that's a whole different conversation here, because the AirTag thing is being kind of popularly touted as a good method of doing that now. And for populated areas, that certainly makes sense. But there are other options that we're going to talk about for people that might want to take it to the next level. And I think if you're going to be traveling internationally, that's probably what you want to do. As a matter of fact, we'll get there. We'll get there. Be patient with the individual because you don't understand what they're going through, Boger said, but make sure you also realize the warning signs so that they're getting the proper care and attention. Trident Area Agency on Aging Dementia Consultant Don Bagwell agrees that wandering is common. It can even occur with the most attentive caregivers. He says it's easy to get overwhelmed as a caregiver, but to remember the top priority for the patient is safety. He also says that GPS and technology devices are helpful, but they have limitations and can offer a false sense of security. Definitely something to keep in mind. The limitations is one thing, because the devices that are not this kind of Bluetooth, like the serious GPS tracking devices, they have batteries. They need to be recharged. And those batteries don't last for, like an AirTag battery, I think can last for months, close to a year. Not a real GPS tracking device. It's like a cell phone. So you're lucky to get a matter of days out of those batteries. Hire says Solomon did have a tracker, but only one that works with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, which stopped pinging about 2 hours into the search. She says that everyone should have some sort of GPS tracker instead. So clearly his sister-in-law is now saying they wish that it was a full-blown GPS tracker that he had. That could have made all the difference in the world if we had just known, she said. I did also find this great resource and charity for the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration. They have an article here about roaming versus wandering, and I really didn't realize that there was a difference between the two myself. Roaming refers to a form of compulsive behavior that presents as walking, biking, or driving the same route repeatedly. Roaming isn't to be confused with wandering. The distinction between the two behaviors is that roaming is moving aimlessly without a destination, a result of experiencing compulsory restlessness, reacting to a stressful environment, or trying to satisfy an unmet need. A person with FTD may also roam to visit their favorite places around town or see familiar faces. Clearly, he's not going to visit his favorite places if he's in a new area. Well, it is interesting that he asked to get to a beach. Because obviously he's someone that loved the beach. He was into surfing, he was into fishing, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I think maybe the phrasing of that, there's the possibility that he was trying to get back to where his wife was as well. Maybe he remembered the cruise ship. Oh, that's going to be at the beach. Just get me back to the water effectively. But they're saying here that wandering occurs when someone, primarily with Alzheimer's, loses their ability to recognize familiar places and people, and that causes them to become disoriented. So that's seen as the differences between roaming and wandering. So back to that comment from his sister-in-law, is the AirTag really a GPS for tracking people? No. And effectively, I mean, if he would have had his own iPhone on him, then yeah, you'd be getting a regular ping from that, but you could just have an app on that phone. You don't need the AirTag component for that. There's free apps, Life 360 is one, and there's apps that work across different devices. So, like it's a terrible situation that he didn't have his own phone, because there would have just been so many more opportunities, assuming that he would have had some type of international coverage, which is maybe another conversation around this as well. Like if you're traveling to international locations, get some form of international phone service activated on your phones. so that you can keep tabs on each other. But then also maybe install one of these apps that helps you track your family, your significant others. Over here at beepings.com, the AirTag is a key finder. In other words, an object locator. It is not a GPS security tracker. I really love that phrasing, GPS security tracker. That's the type of device that we want to get in a situation like we're talking about with Brad here today. The way the key finder works is quite simple. You attach the device to the object you don't want to lose, then connect it to your mobile phone via an app. When you can't find your item, you can activate the app to make the key finder ring, or use the location feature to see where your item is on a map. Bluetooth key finders generally have a range of a few dozen meters. Now, admittedly, the AirTag is a little cooler than that because it does work if it pings off someone else's phone as well. Not quite as limited as only Bluetooth. You need your phone within 33 feet to pick that thing up. But what's the difference there? What about a full-blown GPS tracker? GPS uses satellite signals to calculate the exact position of the device. That's another benefit that the AirTag thing just doesn't have. The AirTag sends a ping of where the iPhone that is recognizing the tag is. So admittedly, since it's using Bluetooth, it's going to be within that general area, probably no more than 50 feet from where that ping comes in, but it's still not exact. A straight up GPS device probably gets that down to somewhere like 3 to 5 feet. So that's transmitted to a server or a tracking device in real time. And that's another thing about these tags. When I went looking into the information on them, they're not quite live updates that are happening. The information kind of comes in slowly. So I saw this one review where a guy was trying to use it to like track a car that was traveling. He said it doesn't work. Like basically the updates were so slow, you can never use it for trying to follow someone in a car. But when the car arrives at the home, assuming that the home has an iPhone and internet access and all that, and a ping goes through, you'll know exactly where it winds up. So there is a story also, I guess, about I don't remember I think it was a model that says that she was being tracked. Someone basically put one of these AirTags on her and then used it to track her. For someone walking, apparently it kind of works as long as she had her own iPhone. So she was basically broadcasting exactly where she was, not knowing it because she didn't know she had an AirTag that was put on her jacket, I believe. But for walking, you can kind of use it for tracking people if they have an iPhone themselves. So that kind of brings us back to this whole situation with Brad. Obviously, he didn't have his own cell phone with him. He had this AirTag, and once he gets 30 feet away from his wife, that connection's severed. If he doesn't come across any other iPhones, nothing real helpful that's going on there. If he did have a full GPS, what does a full GPS device even look like? There's all kinds of different ones. And interestingly, like this one, this looks like a tag to me too. And you have to watch the marketing on some of this stuff. This just isn't big enough to be a full-blown GPS tracking device. And what a lot of the marketing around this stuff will do is say, oh yeah, it's GPS enabled. Well, what does that mean? It means it's using Bluetooth to talk to your phone, and oh, your phone has GPS, right? So that's GPS enabled. It's not the same. That's not exactly what we're looking for there. When you see something that says it requires a SIM card, that is doing its own tracking. Basically, at that point, it has everything it needs to be its own phone. So usually you're going to see them in watch format. But another thing to think about with this story, what happened with his watch? He gave it away. So, but if you're having to look into some of these devices for someone you love or for yourself, look for this requirement. Requires SIM card. Another one, long battery life. It's just that thing that I mentioned before. You're going to have to recharge these. They're not going to stay charged forever. And if you don't recharge them, even if they have their own SIM card, it's not going to matter because basically it's going to work like a dead phone. There's nothing that it can do. Here, this one really grabbed my attention. It's kind of brilliant in one way and maybe not so brilliant in another. This one actually slips into your shoe. It's a sole that you put in your shoe. It's got like a full-on cell phone built into it. and you just put it on this insole, put it in the person's shoe, and that's all you need. You're tracking them everywhere. Sounds like a really good solution, especially for some like the case we're looking at today. The only downside in my mind is if you're wearing a watch, it's super obvious that, oh, I got to remember to charge this. Like you're looking at the thing so often throughout the day. This, there is no reminder. Like I hope it has some feature where it starts beeping or something when it needs a charge. Because how are you going to remember, oh, I've got to pull that insole out of my husband's shoe and recharge it? It's kind of a weird thing. Hopefully they use wireless charging on this device. I haven't looked into it a whole lot, but I do like this thought about it being built into the shoe, because if you do have someone that is wandering or roaming, having a way to track them in their shoe is just, it seems like a very smart move. Here's another thing, just when you see marketing like this, as long as it's saying, oh yeah, it's got to have a SIM card or comes with a SIM card, you know that that's the type of thing you're looking for. This also has an alarm activated if the watch falls off. So even in this case where he took it off, that would hopefully send a kind of last known ping and say, okay, here's where he was when this came off his wrist. Also has a big SOS button on it, which can be really helpful in these cases. And of course, being water resistant, just another thing, a lot of different considerations to look for when you're looking at this stuff. But there's a lot of really good products out there. Now, when Savannah got home, she did put this post up, and I just wanted to share this because I'm sure she's very appreciative to everyone out there. And I just wanted to echo that in this piece as well. Thank you to everyone in the US and in Cozumel and all over the world for everything you've done to support our family these past weeks. There are no words to use that can properly express our gratitude or our grief. There are no updates, and we still do not have any answers, but we do know that Dad always brings the joy and love out in everyone. And though we are in so much pain, we do feel that love right now. We're back in the US recovering. And she is staying up to date. She had a post just earlier today on one of the articles on this case with the information that we covered in today's episode. There is a GoFundMe. It looks like it is still active. And I'm going to make a donation here on behalf of myself and our supporters here at the LordanArts channel. Thank you guys so much. It's raised almost $30,000 at this point. But quite honestly, we don't know what's happening with this case. We don't know if Mimi's going to have to go back out there at some point. We don't know what other things might happen around this and what she's dealing with, even in terms of, is she working? How is she taking care of herself at this point? So we want to make sure that she has a little less to worry about with that. So we're going to make a donation to this GoFundMe just as soon as I'm done filming here today. But I also wanted to touch on the challenge that Brad has been facing with FTD. So we're also going to be making a donation to the AFTD.org, the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration. And I'll be making that in Brad's honor as soon as we're done here today too. And I can't do that without you wonderful supporters. A big thank you to PayPal supporters Angela Welch Sola, Amanda Beard, and Larissa Mertshank. If you'd like to become one of those supporters, please visit LordanArts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee like Sadie Hemmen recently did. We really appreciate you guys that support the channel here. You might have noticed we don't run commercials in the middle of these presentations. We want you to stay focused on the case and keep thinking about how you can help these families that we're talking about here. So that's why we do things the way that we do, and we can't do that without support from these wonderful people. So thank you for supporting us. And we hope for the best in this case. I'm still hoping that we hear maybe something like that case from 1993 with the Missouri man. Maybe there is still just a little glimmer of hope left in this case. But either way, I want this family to have the answers, to know where Brad is, and to be able to bring him home. And hopefully we can see that happen. If any big updates happen on this case, I'll be sure to keep you updated here on the channel. As a matter of fact, we will be doing a Searchlight and Brain Scratch updates episode next week. So please join us here for that. And remember, once again, if you are missing those Monday and Friday shows, you got to get subscribed over on Studio 2 and see what we're doing. That includes the new show Criminal Impact that we have been running here for a couple weeks, as well as episodes of Best of Seriously Mysterious and a show called Paranormal Perspective, some of you might not even know about, plus weekly live streams. If you want to hang out with me live, that's where you can do it. It's all over at LordanArts Studio 2. Take care, everyone. Have a nice weekend, and we'll see you again here next week on the LordanArts channel.